What you are looking at is a self-built, No Weld Recumbent trike, which can be extensively modified to suit the rider. I'm Owen, and I would like to explain the design, materials, and why I'm doing this. We recently moved to northern Germany, and picking an area with an affordable house means going out into the middle of nowhere. You get some fields, a bit of forest, a herd of deer in the forest, a few wolves to chase the deer, and then the sparsity starts to set in. There are a great deal of flat, straight, empty roads, often with attached bike paths, and this inspired me to get into cycling. I'm old, so I remember when you could buy a taxed and ticketed second-hand family car for £1,000. Because of this, I have formed an aversion for spending anything like that on a bike. The difference, of course, is that the bike after the purchase will last for ages with minimal spend on repairs, whereas the £1,000 car will probably need this investment every year. When I took a look at recumbent bikes and found the absolute cheapest were £1,000 to £2,000, I decided I would build one. Working on the project, I found that there was a reason for this number. Recumbents are still niche products, and I bumped up against the economics of scale again and again when looking for components. I could almost certainly have bought a cheap second-hand recumbent for the amount that I've spent over the time to build the bike. Most of this money went into solving problems, making mistakes, and building largely useless bits of bespoke metalwork. This was back in 2019. Then life and a pandemic got in the way, and I didn't get it finished. About 4 months ago, I decided that I really needed to finish and bent and hacked at it, and now I have something which rolls. My aim is to put out a video summing up every 100 kilometers I ride. If anything catastrophically breaks or unscrews, then the odometer gets reset to 0 and damage or errors get documented. Along the way, I'll fit an action cam to the bike and give you my perspective of the ride, and include you in the testing process, and the warm fuzzy feeling of watching someone else get cold and wet while you, the viewer, are not. We will be riding through some nice, hopefully scenic landscape. Though northern Germany doesn't have towering spires and rocky peaks, it does have a profusion of pretty villages and heather. I'm also aiming, as we test the bike together and get more confident that it will hold together for the long haul, to take it further afield. I can't weld. I'd like to learn, but I haven't. I'm also not a great machinist. I can get a hole within 1 to 2 millimeters of where it's supposed to be. What I can do is screw together IKEA flat-pack furniture like an Allen key wielding superstar. So, why sort of square aluminium? The weird shape of the tubing is because it's a profile made to be screwed together. Normally it's used for making industrial workstations and light machinery, but I wanted to see if it would work in this context. The benefits of this profile are that it is easy to cut and assemble. The holes are the slots and are already there for you to use. If something doesn't work, or you don't like the way it's been bolted together, just unbolt and change. I've been lurking in enough recumbent bike forums to know that bent riders like to extensively modify their bikes or trikes. I want a recumbent bike which causes as little hassle as a standard steel frame recumbent. This means that I need to test if bolted components will stand up to being ridden and bashed around. I've decided that if I can build a trike which can go 1,000 kilometers of normal use without anything dropping off it, then I win, I guess. Yay me! Also, it should get me out on the trails, fitter, and along the way might be interesting for anyone else who wants to build something similar. Cue montage. The first thing I need to point out is that the cycle computer isn't at 0 kilometers, as you can see. There was a slight overlap where the bike computer had turned up and I did some riding, but the action cam hadn't been delivered. It was heavy going along the straight, and I guess this had something to do with the steering geometry. This was the first outing using 20-inch wheels instead of 24-inch wheelchair wheels, which I had previously tested with. In order to explain this a little better and to hide my neck through the next piece of footage, a quick explanation of the wheel alignment which needs to be tweaked, specifically toe in and toe out. In order to make it as easy as possible to ride along, the wheels should be aligned straight. This is done by changing the length of the tie bar, a link which makes both wheels move in relation to one another. If the tie bar is too long, then the wheels point towards each other. If it is too short, then they point away. Generally, it's good to give bikes a small amount of toe-in, which gets taken up when the slack is removed from the system during riding. In this specific case, the front wheels had a large toe-in angle, which was then exacerbated from the rear-wheel drive of the bike pushing the front wheels and the slop in the steering geometry. The original 24-inch wheelchair wheels had made it difficult to steer, but I'm guessing the larger wheels, with their greater flex and thinner tyres, were generally more forgiving. allowing the bike to roll despite the bad wheel alignment. I cut the steering tie bar down to give more adjustment. Having made the steering alignment mods, I went for a 10km trip around the block, so to speak. Not nearly as difficult to pedal now, and I managed to get up to nearly 17 km an hour, the lack of lower gears still making any little hill tiring. I tend to do my cycles on Sunday morning around 9 o'clock. It does make it much less stressful not having to really worry about any cars. I don't think the cycle computer is correctly set up. I certainly feel like I'm doing more than 7 km an hour, especially when the footage is sped up 5 times. It was a bit wet and the near side wheel kept flicking mud at me along the road. I think a set of front mud guards would be a good thing to put on the to-do list. Not sure what this guy is doing. It looks like bird watching. We do also have a lot of hunters around here. Ahead of me is Benklo, a little hamlet of houses set in a wood and who seem to keep themselves very much to themselves. I've jogged down the Benklo road before and met the same car 4 times going up and down. I'm guessing they were getting some bread from the baker and then forgot something and ended up doing a 16km round trip altogether. This is Falda. It's got a kindergarten, around 100 houses, and apparently an ongoing feud with Fintel, a neighbouring village. And that's all I really know about Falda. There's also a little farm shop on the outskirts of Falda, which do ice cream and biscuits if you manage to get to Falda by bike. The weather hasn't been great, but my daughter wanted to go on a cycle, and we did a little trip in the direction of Finland. The bike seems to be easier to keep at speed now. However, it is still much slower than a conventional bicycle, as can be seen. This trip is useful as it gives a benchmark to compare against and chase. There should be some quick wins here. Firstly, further tweaking and checking the steering geometry, and then also getting a metal bashing company who know what they're doing to build the steering parts. A recumbent bike always seems faster because you're closer to the ground, so it's always more exciting than on a normal bike. It would just also be nicer to cover ground at the same speed or faster than a normal bike. There was quite a strong headwind, which could be seen when we stopped to catch some leaves before heading back. Everything is spread out by such a lot. I'm glad the kids here have the possibilities to get around by bike or train. The area we deal with on a regular basis, work, school, shopping, trips out, that kind of thing, is around the size of Birmingham. There's hardly anything there. In my opinion, it makes children more independent if they have transport options which don't involve parents driving them everywhere, and I'm glad we have these. On the way, I noticed a steep curb on the side of the road and decided how well the bike handled the twisting moments going off-road. Seems fine. Having completed a ride alongside someone for the first time, I realised that there is still some way to go refining the bike to get both it and myself faster than my daughter. And isn't that what it's all about at the end of the day?